Hello everyone, and this video is about triage. So let's talk about the stages of triage. The reality is nothing is changing in terms of what you do, it's just a different medium. So first you're going to find the patient you're going to want to triage. You're going to comment on the patient if you want. There is a difference here because you're going to sign up for the patient. That will put the patient on your list, so that way you can find them later if you need to. You're going to complete your triage stages. Any fields highlighted in yellow are mandatory. You cannot ignore them. You have to answer them one way or the other. And then after you finish your triage, you're going to complete your EC test the way you do now, except you're going to do it in the system. You're not going to go to a different website. And then after that's done, you're going to assign your EC test level with the modifiers, assign your CDIS complaint. After triage, there's a few things you can always do. One is you can do some immediate directives, ECGs and medications like Tylenol and things you can give directly an order in the system. Some directives you might want to defer a little bit, especially labs, because if you send labs before the registration complete and there's an error, we might run into some problems. So keep your patients on your list and then order and send the labs after the registration is completed. Should you stay signed on or not? When you're done with everything, you can sign off the patient. That's absolutely fine. If you've ordered directives, it's probably better to keep them on your list, and that way they'll stay on until your directives have come back and you've looked at them, or there's TOC and a secondary nurse has taken over the care. Once you sign off them, they drop off your list of patients, and that's why you want to keep them signed on. Triage reassessments you can do if something changes or if time interval passes. Once the secondary nurse takes on, they will sign on for the patient. And if you're still signed on, they can sign you off or you can sign yourself off when you're done. So let's do a triage walkthrough. We're going to start an ED launch point. You're going to find the patients needing triage who have been quick regged here in triage needed. And here we have two patients. First thing we're going to do is we're going to click on this bubble here and we're going to make a comment if we want to in triage. Second is we're going to click on where it says nurses. That will open the sign-on window. If you haven't checked in, it'll prompt you to check in, open the window and check in, and then it'll allow you to assign yourself to the patient, and you can go ahead and close. Now, notice that you are assigned to the patient. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to right-click on their name, which will open the contextual menu, and what you are aiming for is EC-TAS, which is at the top. So EC-TAS will start the process of CTAS and open the forms from you. If you go through this contextual menu on right-click, you will notice there are many other things that might be of interest to you, like nursing quick orders, where you do your directives. If you've called a patient to triage, you want to document that they weren't there. Triage reassessments, poison control, NIH stroke scales, pre-arrival. So we don't use it for EMS, but if a doctor or the department gets a call about a pre-arriving patient, transfer from another site, and the information is there, you can attach it to the patient's chart. You can assign and unassign other people. This is how nurses will unassign you off the patient and keep them just for themselves. There is also a sub-menu under request events, and these are events you can add to the patient in triage. So let's click EC-TAS and let's start working. This opens the patient's chart in PowerChart, and it takes you straight to where you can click Open Triage Assessment. That opens the triage assessment. Now, these are 2 pages I've put together. Unfortunately, you can't scroll. You have to hold the scroll bar that's on the side. The page ends just about here. So this is the second half of the page. It is important to know that you're not going to start with acuity up here. You're going to leave this because this is where you assign the CTAS after you've gone through EC-TAS level. So you're going to start with ED triage and work your way down through the document. And let's start with ED triage. Mode of arrival, gate, clicking infection control will open up the infection control, and then you're going to go down and do your subjective assessment, your objective assessments, any third-party information from EMS. Is it a high mechanism of injury? And then you're going to move down. Vital signs you're going to document. I'm going to document your cap refill. From there, you can open your Glasgow Coma Scale, both for children and for adults. You're going to tab through and do your pain assessment. Again, you have an adult and a pediatric pain assessment. And from there, you're going to move on to medical history. The first part of medical history is going to be documenting allergies and medications. This will open one window in which both allergies and medications go. If the lower part of medications looks familiar, it's because part of orders, that's where you see medications looks exactly the same. This is where you're going to work. You can add allergies and say no allergies, and you can add medications if you need them. When you click each one of these, we'll open a window where you can add the allergy and the medications by searching from the database. You're done with that. You're going to move to your past medical history, procedural history, false risk, opens a submenu, and notice these yellow ones you can't really not answer, although you do have an option for unable to obtain. And these unables to obtain become really important when you're CTASing a VSA, because this is how we're going to jump through quickly and move on to doing our workflows. You move on to mental health assessment. If you click yes, it'll open a submenu, and depending on what you choose here, this will drive workflow down the road for the secondary nurse. Violence risk, immunization, immunocompromisation, etc. Now we're done with our triage, but we don't have a triage level yet. We're going to click sign at the top. This will launch the ECTAS component. Once that's done, you're going to search for your CDIS complaint. You're going to narrow it down. You're going to pick it. At this stage, the ECTAS system, depending on your vitals, will assign some modifiers. But here you can select, unselect your modifiers. When you've done that, you're going to click calculate score, and it'll give you your score. You can override it from that little arrow there, and then you click submit score. Once you've done, this looks familiar. It'll take you back to the CTAS document that you've just completed. However, this time we're going to work at the top part, acuity, which we left open at the very beginning. So we're going to make sure that the ECTAS is populated. We're going to say yes. We're going to pick our CDIS complaint. You can only enter one letter, so I enter C here and pick chest pain, cardiac features. And then you're going to click sign at the top of the document, and your document is signed. Triage reassessment. There's two ways of getting to triage reassessment. You can get from the tracker. If your patient is selected, you hit the ad hoc and pick EDCTAS reassessment. Although what's easier is if you right click on the patient, from the contextual menu, you pick ED Triage Reassessment. Once you do that, you'll end up with the eTriage Reassessment window, time and date, reassessment, your comments if something new has happened, does the patient know? And if you're entering new vitals, you click vitals and you enter a new set of vitals. Now let's move on to some demos. We are going to demo an adult triage, a child triage, a triage reassessment, and then we're going to do some directives of medications, ECG, and labs.
Okay, so you would go under the triage needed filter. These are all the patients that triage is needed. You can type in the comments here the patient that you're pulling into triage if needed, or you can simply sign up for the patient so that other nurses know that you've pulled the patient into triage. You can unassign yourself, or if you've drawn medical directives, it's recommended that you remain signed up for the patient until those lab results come back or until there's a TOC. Right, click on the patient's name, go to ECTAS. Once you're in the ECTAS M page, you would click Open Triage Assessment. And from here, you'll start under ED Triage component. Click the mode of arrival, click their gate, and if you can and have time, complete the infection screening. Sign. If there's SADV concerns disclosed, you can highlight one of those, yes or no. Otherwise, you can type in your subjective assessment. You would select a high mechanism of injury if necessary.
Okay.
If you select yes and you want to remove it, there's no function. You simply right click and clear. Open the GCS. Fill out the pain assessment as necessary and sign.
Okay.
Document allergies. You can mark no known allergies or add allergies. Okay to sign or okay and add new to do another one. And you'll see that it was added up there. Medication history. This is home medications. Add. Okay, and then you can fill out the information as needed. And then I would leave med history incomplete and sign the form.
Done.
Past medical history. Add a problem. And you can either hit OK or OK and add new. And we're going to hit
You
OK.
got two problems. Perfect.
Perfect. And sign. Any history of procedures you can document here. Add
Procedure
new.
history.
It won't find it. Falls risk. No, no, no. But if they are falls risk, this is the only spot that will trigger the falls alert. The other ones won't. But if I clicked no, 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 and then yes here,
It'll still
I would
flag
have
it.
triggered. Any mental health concerns? If yes, it then brings you to the ED suicide screening. If I click yes to any of these, it will then trigger more documentation for the second nurse. Any violence risk, this will flag the patient. Immunizations are up to date. Immunocompromised, yes or no? Same thing. Sign the form. And now you're brought to the EC test component, and this is what submits to the ministry. This was a laceration. And then based on my vitals that I put in, this selected my modifiers. If you want to, you would hit calculate score then. You can also add more modifiers or unselect modifiers. Calculate score, you're a 2. And now you're brought back to the triage M page. You need to select, did the EC test score populate over here? Yes, it did. And unfortunately, you then have to pick the C laceration again. You can only enter one letter, and now we sign. And then you'll go back to ED launch point. They'll no longer be in the triage needed. They'll now just be in the waiting room. And under my patients, because I signed up for that patient, well, let's just refresh. You'll see here that my patient has a C-test score of 1. It updated with my CETUS complaint, and triage is complete. So again, we would sign up for this patient. In triage, right click, and I would go to my patient. Say carried, appropriate for age. Complete my yes, no. Fever, no, no. Now, because I've selected fever, this will automatically trigger isolation. source, oral. Oops. Then you do have to pull the bar down. You cannot roll through the power form. Capillary is less than open adult or pediatric here. Spontaneous, oriented, obeys, and then sign it. This kid's weight is 35. You can either do this pain score or you can do this pain score as well. No cry. Oh, crying steadily. Arch rigidly and quietly. It's a pain score too. Sign it. Any allergies? Well, let's just say this one is known. And then here, we can also do the same no known home. I said done and sign. Right. Sign. Past medical history. Again, it's all the same. Your falls risk. Falls, no, 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 and no. Sign. Mental health assessment. Immunizations are up to date. Nothing. Fever. Oops. Fever. Again, heart rate is high. Click and submit.
Beautiful.
And again, we're brought back to the triage fever. And we sign and submit. Now, the only thing that I want to show, this is my patient. C-test 2, you can see here, there's isolation. And the triage is complete. One thing I want to show is that if you get a C-test 1 coming in, registration will no longer submit their C-test score. It's us to do it because it lives inside our triage document. So what they're going to do is, again, they're going to right click, go to the EC test, open component. And what they're going to do is they're going to defer all of the yellow boxes. Unable, 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 unable. You're going to sign it. You're going to say cardiac arrest. They're already quick regged. Cardiac arrest, non-traumatic, which should automatically be a C-test 1. And we're going to submit score. And that's it. They can do it in the room, yeah. Go to ED Triage Reassessment. Okay, and you can say I'm in now. And you could say reassessment findings. Patient now complained of patient notified. Yes. Really, where I would go is, and I would look under my nursing workflow and I would do triage review here. They're a C-test 1. They came in for a laceration. This is their vitals. And then this is the summary. Once the patient's here, right click, and they want to go to nursing quick orders, they can then click the fever management in adult and children.
Whenever you get the urge to sign, don't modify.
Right. And then you can click what you want to give to the child. So I picked the liquid dose because the child's under 13. And I'm going to say that you are going to be, you're an APOD.
Sure.
You're most likely going to be the physician, or RAS
Yeah,
most likely.
that's okay.
And you're going to order it as a medical directive. Okay. And you can see that you're going to give 525 milligrams liquid, urgent, orders for signature, and sign. What we kind of want to teach is in triage to wait for the patient to be fully registered before they order labs. Because if I make a mistake as the nurse with registering the patient, the full registration can merge that encounter. If I send off labs under the wrong patient, it creates a problem in the system. So we'd like them to be fully registered. But what you can do is either the Tylenol or your ECG. And you're going to sign and you're going to say why. And sign. And now that will go to the cart. And they can also do the ECG just by clicking this button here. So let's order the cardiac labs, go to their nursing quick orders. And then they can order the cardiac labs. This is the only one that they need to satisfy. And sign.
And that was it. I would like to thank Rachel for doing this. The amount of work that Rachel and the other members of the team have put into this system and where we are today is enormous. Other than that, if you have any questions, you know where to find me and how to contact me or contact Rachel. Thank you very much for your time.